Hello, welcome to Emmanuel Maths Academy. So today we'll be looking at this topic, trigonometry. This is one of the basic concepts in mathematics, right? So what is trigonometry? Trigonometry is simply the study of triangles in relation to the sides and angles, right? Now, for every or given a right angle triangle, right? This, where you have A, B, and C. Then from this, here is the angle, and here is labeled as the what? The opposite. O. Here is the what? The adjacent. While here is called the hypotenuse. Is that clear? So I will be looking at three basic trigonometry ratio, right? Which are the sine, cos, and tan, right? The sine and cos. The cos is actually cosant, and the tan is actually tangent, right? But it's written in short form as sine, cos, and tan. We'll be using this sine, cos, and tan using this acronym called SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA, right? Where you have that our sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, right? Then the cos, this cos is equal to adjacent over what? Hypotenuse. Is that clear? Then the tan is equal to opposite over adjacent. Put it over adjacent. Is that clear? Now, in these three trigonometric ratios, it has reciprocal, right? And the reciprocal are cosec, right? We have cosec and we have sec. This cosec is actually in full is cosecant, and this is actually secant. We also have cotangent, which is also in short form called cot. Cosec is equal to 1 over what? Sine. While sec is equal to 1 over cos. Cot is equal to cos over sine. Is that clear? Then from this now, 1 over sine, what's our sine here? Our sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. If you find this reciprocal from your law of indices, right, this will now become what? Hypotenuse over opposite, right? Because if this is dividing this, when you have this over opposite over hypotenuse, this is the same thing as what? 1 divided by opposite over hypotenuse, right? Now, if you want to interchange this, if you introduce, change this divide to multiplication, this will now come up and this will go down, right? Now I have 1 times hypotenuse over opposite. So 1 times this will still give you the same thing. That's how I arrive at this. So applying the same thing here, you have that this is equal to 1 over adjacent over hypotenuse, which is what? Hypotenuse over adjacent. Also have here as adjacent over what? Opposite, right? Because if you find 1 over cos over sine, will now give you the the reciprocal, this will come up. Now have sine over cos, right? And sine over cos is what? Tan. If you interchange it, you have adjacent over hypotenuse, which is what we have here. Now we look at special angles trigonometry reaction, right? The first angle we'll be looking at is angle 45 degrees, right? And we have to make use of assumption, right? So for a right angle, this, we assume that here is 1, here is 1, angle 45 degrees. So if you have this like this in this form, this assumption that both the opposite and the adjacent is 1, 1, automatically the hypotenuse will be what? Square 2, root 2, right? Because if you apply Pythagoras theory, which says that h square is equal to o square plus a square, h is equal to 1 plus 1, which is 2. You have root 2. Because when you do this, you now take the square root of both sides. And if you take the square root of, from your law of indices, square root of this is the same thing as a, right? From your law of indices. So that's how I arrive at this. Applying this acronym, so ka 2 sine 45 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Where is the opposite? Here. Over, where's our hypotenuse? Over root 2. Right? If you rationalize this, you now have what? 1 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2, which is equal to root 2 over 2. Right? Then cos what? Cos 45 will be what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent 1 over hypotenuse. Still get the same thing, right? Root 2 over 2. Then what about tan? Tan 45 will be equal to opposite over hypotenuse over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. 1 over 1 will give you 1. Now the next angle we'll be looking at is angle 30 and 60 degrees. Angle 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Now we also make a mathematical assumption that from this angle, equilateral triangle, right, where you have the 3 sides to be equal, that the sides are what? 2, 2, 2. And each angle here is 60 degrees, also 60 degrees, right? Because you know that the sum of a triangle is what? 180. So if you decide to dissect this, to divide this into 2, right, that means this angle here from this to this will be 30 degrees, and from this to this will be 30 degrees, right? If from here to here is 2, that means from half of this is, from this to this will give you what? 1. From this to this will also give you 1. So half of this is something like this. $30, $60. This 30 is 30 degrees, 60 degrees. You now have 1. You now have 2. To get this should be root this plus this, right? That means root 3. Is that clear? Is that clear? Now, let's start from sine 30. Sine 30, no, applying this SOHCAHTOA. Let me just write it again. Applying this acronym SOHCAHTOA. Sine 30 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Where's our opposite? Our opposite is 1. Because this is where the angle is coming from. Right? That means here it will be our opposite, and here should be the adjacent. Right? But if it's angle 60, because the angle is facing this side, here should be the opposite, and here should be the adjacent. Here represents the hypotenuse. Is that clear? Now look at this. Opposite over hypotenuse over 2. Then cos 30 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Where's the adjacent? Over hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 2. Then tan 30 is equal to opposite over adjacent. Opposite 1 over adjacent 3. Right? If you rationalize this, you have 1 over root 3 times root 3 over root 3. You have root 3 over 3. Then sine 60 degrees is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is this. You have root 3 over what? Hypotenuse 2. Right? Then for cos 60 degrees, you have what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse 1 over 2. Then tan 60 degrees is equal to opposite over what? Adjacent over 1, which is what? Root 3. Now let's look at this example. It says find the value of the unknown sides in the diagram below. Right? We are given these angles, this diagram. You have asked to find this unknown sides. Find x here, y here, and z here. Right? Solution. Right? Now from A, applying sine 45 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. What is our opposite here? Opposite here is what? X. And our hypotenuse is what? 4. Right? Now making x the subject of the formula, then you cross multiply. That means x is equal to 4 times what? Sine 45. Right? So what is sine in our special angle? What is sine 45? Sine 45 is 1 over root 2. 1 over root 2. That means this is actually equal to 4 over root 2. Right? So that means if you rationalize this, this will be equal to 4 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2, which will be equal to 4 root 2 over 2. 4 divided by 2 will give you 2. This will now be equal to 2 root 2. Is that clear? Then for B, applying the same thing. Where is the unknown angle? You're looking for y. If you're looking for y here, from this, our cos is equal to adjacent, which is 8 over hypotenuse. That means cos 45 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, which is our y. If you also make y the subject, you now have that y is equal to 8 over what? Cos 45. Right? 8 over cos 45, which is equal to 8 over cos 45 is what? From our special angle is 1 over root 2. 1 over root 2 equal to 8 root 2. It will give you 8 root 2. Now for C, which will give you what? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. We have our opposite, you have our hypotenuse. That means you'll be using sine. Right? These are the two unknown, opposite and hypotenuse. That means sine 60 opposite 3 over z. If you make this subject, you have z equal to 3 over sine 60. Is that clear? Then from this, what's our sine 60? What's sine 60 as a special angle? Sine 60 is root 3 over 2. right? And this will be equal to 6 over root 3. Right? Now, to rationalize this, you have times root 3 over times root 3, which will be equal to 6 root 3 over 3. This will now be equal to, this divide this, you have 2 root 3. Is that clear? You have 2 root 3. Hence, z is equal to 2 root 3.